artists of movie making. My name is Christina Ibarra, and I'm the Director of Education and Public Engagement here at the museum. Thank you for joining us tonight in our David Geffen Theater for a conversation with Karin Kusama, Megan Fox, moderated by Tananarive Due, followed by a screening of 2009's cult classic Jennifer's Body. Before welcoming Karin Kusama to the stage, along with Megan and Tananarive, I want to share a little bit more about them and their work. Tananarive Due is an award-winning author who teaches at UCLA. She is a leading voice in Black speculative fiction. Due has won an American Book Award, an NAACP Image Award, and a British Fantasy Award. Her book, The Reformatory, was a winner of the Los Angeles Times Book Prize, Bram Stoker Award, World Fantasy Award, and a New York Times notable book. Her other books include The Wishing Pool and Other Stories, Ghost Summer Stories, My Soul to Keep, The Good House, and her husband, Stephen Barnes, and her recently co-directed the horror short film, The Keeper. Megan Fox has been a global film and television icon for over a decade, first breaking out as Michaela in the Transformers franchise.
That's me!
The sequel grossed over $900 million to become 2009's top blockbuster. She went on to headline Jennifer's Body, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle films, and star in comedies like Friends with Kids, The Dictator, This Is 40, and Fox's hit series, New Girl. Recent credits include the dark comedy Till Death, Netflix's Night Teeth, Big Gold Brick, opposite Oscar Isaac and Lucy Hale, and the Expendables franchise alongside Jason Statham. Most recently, she stars with Michelle Maroney in Millennium Media's 2024 thriller Subservience. A longtime fashion and beauty icon, Fox has graced the covers of GQ, Elle, Allure, Esquire, Empire, Rolling Stone, and more, several ranking among each magazine's top-selling issues of that year. She also served as the global ambassador and iconic face of Giorgio Armani. Karin Kusama recently directed the first 2 episodes of AMC's horror anthology series, The Terror, The Devil in Silver, of which she is also the executive producer. The show is set to premiere in 2026. She was also the executive producer of Showtime's coming-of-age survival drama, Yellow Jackets. The show has garnered 10 Emmy nominations to date, including 1 for her direction of the pilot episode. Prior to that, Karin helmed the Golden Globe-nominated film Destroyer, starring Nicole Kidman, and was written by her frequent collaborators, Bill Hay and Matt Manfredi. Her feature credits include the indie thriller The Invitation,
Woo!
tonight's film Jennifer's Body, sci-fi love story Ian Flux, and her Cannes and Sundance Film Festival award-winning debut, Girl Fight. Karin has also worked extensively in television, directing episodes for such series as The Mysterious Benedict Society, for which she won a Children's and Family Emmy Award, Dead Ringers, Halt and Catch Fire, The Outsider, and The Man in the High Castle. In 2018, Karin launched Family Style Film with her production company with Hay and Manfredi, where they produce for film and television across multiple genres. I'd like to give a quick shout out and thank you to Lindsay Lavin, our projectionist, and this evening's Theater Ops team. Before we begin tonight's program, please don't forget to silence and stow your devices. There's also no eating in our theaters. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the program. Now please help me welcome to the stage Tananarive Due, Megan Fox, and Karin Kusama.
Jennifer's Body fan! much to talk about and we don't have that much time, so I just want to jump right into it. This is for both of you, actually. How did you end up reading Diablo Cody's script originally? What made you say, I have to do this film? And also, where were you at that point in your careers?
Let me start. Okay. First of all, I just want to say I just had a baby and I have a lot of brain fog. So I haven't slept in 7 months. So if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. Just like interrupt me and tell me I'm off track. I don't remember exactly where I was when I read it the first time. I met with you right away, or was it Diablo?
You met with Diablo first.
Did I meet with you in a cafe?
At the Roosevelt Hotel.
Okay, yeah. So I met with Diablo, I met with Karin. I read the script and I think it just resonated with me because there's something about that, like, whether it's just perceived or not, I felt like I was being persecuted at that time in my career. And I was struggling a lot with fame and kind of traumatized by fame. And so I resonated with those deeper layers of, you know, before she becomes a monster, she's just a teenage girl that gets sacrificed for somebody else's gain. And that very much resonated because that's kind of how I came into this industry. I think I was 19 when I made my first big movie, and that I felt like was reflecting back these energies that existed inside of myself. And it also gave me a place to put those qualities of myself that are really unhinged, that are not appropriate to express every day of your life, but are still there nonetheless. And so there was something so fun about getting to tap into that like darker feminine energy that no one really wants to allow.
I think once Megan was attached, I read the script and I just have a vivid memory of like laughing so hard, like being so disarmed by Diablo's script and how it was so smart and wild. And so at that point, I had made a very small indie film called Girl Fight, and I had made a big sci-fi movie called Eon Flux, and they were sort of at opposite ends of the spectrum of critical reception. One was considered a success, one was considered a failure. So I sort of had to fight for Jennifer's Body, but I felt so close to it emotionally. It like, I really related to the part of it that was about those girls that live in the shadow of a Jennifer, you know, the sense of both like worship, attraction, revulsion, need. Yeah. And so it spoke to me too, but in a kind of different way.
We don't have to dwell here, but it's just so extraordinary to see the response that this audience and audiences around the country have had to Jennifer's Body over the years, which is such a contrast to where the response started. Mm-hmm. And I do want to just address that because, Karin, for a woman or any marginalized director, a failure can sometimes be career-ending. Mm-hmm. So you went into Jennifer's Body. I mean, you know, you say Girl Fight was a little movie, but it was highly acclaimed and successful. And here you have this, you know, Diablo Cody won the Oscar while you were preparing for the film, so you must have had such high hopes for it. And then with the marketing leaning less into the friendship aspect and girlhood and the feminine and more just literally into Jennifer's Body, it was mismarketed. So when did you originally feel like, oh no, you know, something is going awry, this great project?
Well, it's really interesting. I don't know if you remember this, Megan, that a new tool in releasing movies was to track literally right after the first screenings in theaters would happen, to start tracking Twitter. Twitter was considered this new tool to understand if your movie was landing with people. And I think what we didn't quite understand about Twitter was that it was just this like sort of algorithmic voice box for largely the loudest misogynist voices in culture, and it remains that.
Yes.
And so what was really fascinating was to see how much people were disturbed by the movie. They were disturbed by the fact that it was me and Diablo and Megan and Amanda, and it was this kind of like female howl of a pop story, and the hostility toward that was pretty profound. At that moment, when I started seeing those tweets, I was like, oof, this is going to be interesting.
That's just, oh, it sucks so much that you went through that, but it all works out in the end. This is actually for both of you. The power of friendship is just so strong throughout the movie, toxic or not. You know, I in high school, I was the needy who didn't even have the Jennifer, you know. but those Sandlot flashbacks are so effective in the story. And even though it does delve into the toxic, it's in codependency, it's so authentic that it's this carrier tone through the whole film. So how powerful was this notion of friendship to both of you when you were filming this? How did you try to capture the idea of girlhood friends and when it starts to go wrong?
Do you want to go first? And then I'm not going to have something better to say than what you have to say. I actually get my answer out of the way, and then we'll listen to your answer. I think I didn't have a lot of friends in school because I was always kind of an eccentric weirdo, and like I feel like young girls, especially that era before this kind of information was so available to everyone, the way you learned how you were supposed to be was through such the type of media that we were fed. We had access to like MTV, and you know, all the movies back then were so misogynistic, and all of the messaging, marketing, everything. And so I think making friends was this bizarre like adventure through a jungle where you never knew if it was a friend or foe or a predator or what this person was, because I feel like girls were always women were always pitted against each other in a way, because there's a subconscious messaging that we have an expiration date, and so therefore we all have this underlying insecurity and see everyone else as competition, and that starts really young. And so I think for me, just trying to navigate, well, how deep can a friendship even really go, and like how pure can it be between two women because of how we've been raised in this society to not actually come together and support each other, because obviously we would be way too powerful if we ever were able to do that. So the patriarchy has always like left us confused and in competition with one another, instead of being able to just genuinely connect and share our ideas, because not that we're so much smarter, but
dot, dot, dot. I mean, I've always said that, you know, the patriarchy only works if it makes good soldiers out of its women. And so much of the underlying kind of nightmare of the relationship between Jennifer and Needy is that they both truly love and understand each other, but can't feel permission to truly bond in solidarity. That only comes after tremendous kind of literal sacrifice of a person. And so I felt like, even though it was this crazy comedic horror exploration of that notion, I hope it becomes clear that, you know, when largely unremarkable, largely untalented people who are willing to sell their soul to the devil for success and power, when they enact that kind of sadistic fantasy, eventually someone comes knocking. And in this case, you know, it's Needy in defense of the woman she lost, Jennifer.
Great. You know, the great thing and what I love about horror as a genre is that it's entertainment on the surface. But if you choose to, underneath there's so much room for lessons or deeper impact. So if you had to choose a word or a phrase to sum up what you wanted the audience to take away from Jennifer's body, what would it be and why?
I mean, for me, it's all about transgression. I mean, I feel like the movie was transgressive on the page, and I wanted people to feel like watching this film, they had a sense of being seen and a sense of permission to be their full, wild, freaky self. Like, I just feel like this world needs more freak flags flying, and you know, I hope this movie is part of that canon.
I'm not gonna have a better answer than that, so I'll go on with hers.
Three flags, got it, okay.
Three flags.
So this is for Karin. The film is famously aware of and subverts the male gaze. Can you talk about your choices in framing Jennifer's body, both as an object of desire and a site of monstrous power? And how do you navigate making a film about objectification without
also objectifying. I mean, it was such a tricky line, and I think back then I probably didn't even completely have the language for it. Like I wished I knew more of what I know now in terms of like how I could have spoken to you about it, because it was innately uncomfortable. Like I think I always knew Jennifer was a kind of priestess of power, and there was this inevitable sense of walking a very razor's edge of a kind of energy of exploitation. And so for me, it was all about reminding ourselves among the crew and the actors that it's the power of these women that is so frightening. The power is innate and the fear comes later, but the power was always there in all of them.
That's great. Well, then we'll give you one, Megan. How about that? So this was a very physical role for you, and I would imagine demanding in a lot of ways. Can you talk about developing the physicality of your character, the most challenging aspects of your performance and the transformation, and how did it stretch you?
I think, well, in terms of, I had just come off of Transformers, so I was used to doing a lot of physical stuff already, and I feel like I actually really would be a great stunt woman. Like I have a talent for that. But so the physical part was more weird stuff, like because there's so much blood in this movie. The scene where, I'm eating out of the cadaver, I'm like hovered over him and eating his blood. That's, it's straight corn syrup, and I don't know how many takes we did, but like stuff like that where you're just getting like nauseated from the exposure to things like that. But what was the second part of that after the physical? Because it wasn't super physical for me, but it did stretch me. Like,
how did it stretch you?
There were some moments that required like a lot of vulnerability that I don't think I went into it prepared to show, because it's so revealing about possibly like my own past, my own childhood, whatever, those moments where something comes through, like whether it's when I'm in the mirror putting on the makeup trying to cover up my skin because I'm not beautiful anymore, like those types of moments of vulnerability where I'm getting sacrificed. Obviously there was something about, like, maybe from a past life, I don't know, something about having a circle of men like standing around me, and when they would start chanting the song, like taunting me before they were gonna kill me, that triggered something so deep in me where I was just like, I was weeping.
It was a really upsetting day.
And so it unlocked things that I wasn't prepared. It was like a ayahuasca trip, to be honest. Like I didn't know it was gonna unlock those things, but it brought things to the surface that were kind of really healing to acknowledge and release.
And Karin, for you as the director, what would you say were moments from her performance that exceeded your expectations or defined her character or just surprised you?
I mean, the magic of getting to work with this cast, and especially Megan, was that every moment was surprising. Every moment was funny and intelligent and sharp and lacerating. But there is a moment where later in the film that you referenced, where you're looking in the mirror and you do feel you've lost your power, and you do feel you've lost your beauty, and you're brushing your hair, and clumps of hair are coming out in your hand. And the look on your face and what you brought to that moment was so kind of naked and so deeply vulnerable and exposed. And I just remember feeling so grateful that you were willing to be so vulnerable, because it was like you understood you went beyond the fairy tale. You went to something deeply kind of elemental and human about what it means for women when they are told they are no longer valuable in the world. And it was incredibly moving, incredibly profound for me.
great. This is also. This is also for both of you. I had an opportunity to talk to Jordan Peele once about his anxieties before the release of Get Out, where he thought it might be too in people's faces racially when he wrote it, as opposed to when it came out, because political winds had shifted. So did you have similar anxieties about whether or not Jennifer's Body was a good match for its time, or how would you describe the influence of timing in the response to the film then versus now? Would the response be different today?
You know, it's so funny. I don't know if the response would be different today. I love that this audience is here, which tells me in some ways people have found the movie, obviously. But I think for me, like my sense of, I hope, a kind of deep feminism is in every cell of my body. And even if I'm at war with kind of how I've internalized the patriarchy, I ultimately have this kind of wild confidence that eventually the notion that women are humans and women are voices and brains and intelligences worth and imaginations worth wrestling with, that would win out. And so to me, it was disappointing that Jennifer's Body didn't reach its initial audience when it first came out. But does it surprise me that people have discovered it? Fuck no.
Great. Love it. And so, Megan, this one is for you. What advice would you give yourself if you could sort of send a video back to the actress you were about to shoot this film?
Oh, I don't know that I would give myself advice. I think where I was at that point in my life, so lost, like so full of like that rage that I had towards how I had been treated in the industry and how I was dealing with shame and the constant, like, at that time I had just, before we started filming, I just left a premiere for something where, you know, I had to go. I'm obligated to go. And I remember like the paparazzi were so ruthless back then, the way they would talk to women. And like, I walked out just to try to get to my car and they're all shooting. And one guy's like, Megan, why are you such a bitch? And another guy is like, Megan, do you think you're overrated? The internet says so. And I'm just trying to do my job. Like I was asked to be at this premiere. I'm trying to get to my car. And so I had all of this like grief and sorrow and also anger and rage that needed a place to go. And like I said, being able to just have the permission to be unhinged, even in between takes, or maybe the entire time we were there in Canada filming. That was very cathartic for me. That was very healing for me because I was really struggling at that time. And if I had been able to warn myself or give myself advice or have any sort of grounding or clarity, I don't think you would have gotten the performance that you got.
But I want to also say that like there wasn't any like structure in place for you to be able to say like I don't deserve to be treated like this. Like there was such a an expectation that you would just endure it, and that's what women, young women particularly, young beautiful women especially, just endure. And it was such an interesting kind of tension or commentary as we were making the movie about this idea that we put these women up on a pedestal so that we can tear them down and kind of cannibalize them.
Right, the minute they forget their place or make demands or So Karen, this film's aesthetic, I mean, the authenticity of the high school experience really just shines through. And it's been a minute since I was in high school. So could you discuss your approach to visualizing the high school experience? Were you drawing on personal memories sometimes, or was it mostly the script, or where was it coming from?
I mean, the script described this town of Devil's Kettle as this kind of collision of small town with a sort of primeval wilderness. And so we were able to sort of immediately create this fairy tale feeling. I think high school was, for the longest time, largely the same, really until the introduction of phones. But even now, I think the high school experience is still inevitably somewhat hierarchical, inevitably just terribly awkwardly embarrassing for most students for whatever reasons. And so that part of it felt so immediate to me. And sort of working in this industry, it's kind of like you never leave high school. It sort of feels like you're always sort of trying to just graduate from that feeling of strange hierarchies. So for me, it was all about like this fairy tale that I could create through like color and through a sense of I don't know, a kind of pop surface that could also be kind of lush and sensual as well.
Wow. So in terms of the industry, some things have changed, some things haven't. There's been a kind of apocalypse you were discussing with Mike Flanagan in terms of Hollywood in general, although horror seems to be doing pretty well. And also women's voices and women's agency have hopefully a different place than previously. How would you characterize where we are now in the industry, maybe in more positive ways than when you shot this, or are there some things that are worse?
I mean, it's a really, it's an interesting loaded question, because I think we are clearly in a moment of incredible daily strain and pressure to muzzle ourselves, particularly women. And yet, I always find that in those like moments where the culture is coming down hard on expression, that's when the wildest things emerge out of expression. And so I'm really hopeful that, imaginative people take matters into their own hands and make art that talks back to the moment we're in, because it needs a good talking back to.
It sure does. And how do you feel about where we are? You're not shy. You haven't been shy in the past, so.
No, but there's a lot of fights that I probably wouldn't bother fighting if I were to go back in time. I don't know that anything was really gleaned from some of that. So, yes, I can look back and, secretly I've had producers and heads of studios come to me, and of course never in front of the press were they willing to say, but be like, you have bigger balls than any man that's ever worked in this industry. And I'm like, well, thank you, but why the fuck didn't you say that when all of this was happening? That could have gone a long way if you would have said that to Variety or Hollywood Reporter or anything else like that. I think a lot of it has to do with, everything with me is like, it has a spiritual context, so it's not for everyone. But for me, I think it has a lot to do with what kind of archetype you embody or the kind of energy that you carry. And so I don't know that I'm someone, because of the kind of mirror that I am for people and what I provoke out of them, I don't know that I'll ever be somebody who doesn't struggle to some degree to sort of fight against whether you want to call it objectification or just being dismissed or being not given an opportunity, or this very bizarre desire that a lot of people have to sacrifice me, to kill me, to rip me to pieces. Like that energy does exist. And I don't know that like I can do enough healing as a person and transcending as a person to where I won't still meet that in this lifetime. I think that's just a lesson for me that I'm learning and may take into the next life with me as well. But I think that's everyone would have a different answer. But for me, yeah, I think it's just kind of always going to be different shades of this, and I'm polishing myself and learning and growing with it, but I don't ever expect to just be able to, I don't know, accolades is not the word, but I don't expect to ever find the acceptance that perhaps like the young me is looking for. You don't gotta be sad about it, it's okay.
But it's real, though. It's real. I've lost track of where we are with time, but if we have one quick one, I'll just throw one last quick one out there. You're back in high school. Jennifer or Needy, or did you know a Jennifer or Needy while you were in high school?
I mean, I went to a Christian school with like 6 students. So it wasn't a lot for me to, I don't think I definitely wasn't a Jennifer because I was never mean, but I guess I was just by having no other options, not a needy either. I guess I would have had to have been the Jennifer. But I think my best answer is, and this has nothing really to do with your question, but
Go for it.
talk about myself a little bit. I had a question about like the demon that takes over Jennifer. Did you or Diablo ever talk about that possibly being Lilith? Because for me, I always thought that that was Lilith and that she was, because Lilith was, do you guys know who Lilith is? Yeah. She was cast out of the Garden of Eden for basically not submitting to Adam, and he wanted a submissive wife, and he went to God and complained like a little bitch that she wouldn't submit. And God was like, Lilith, will you just submit to Adam? It'll be so much easier. If you do, I don't have to hear him fucking yapping all the time. Just do it, it's fine. And she was like, no, I'm not. And God goes, well, the alternative is I have to cast you out of the garden. And she's like, great, do it. I would rather any day be cast out than have to be this person's servant. And so she gets cast out, and supposedly what happens, and this was a way to like brainwash women into never speaking back or having any free agency. What the books say is that she turned into a demon banshee who then like seduced religious pious men in their sleep and ate babies and things like that. Which, if she did it, I kind of think that's fire. But I always thought that she was the demon that took over Jennifer because she then ate all of the douchebags in her high school. I know that wasn't your question.
No,
but
I
something
love
about
it.
what you said reminded me of that, and I
Better
wanted to
than my
ask
question.
you if you guys ever talked about like who is the demon that's inside of her.
It's funny, we didn't actually talk literally about Lilith, but we did talk about the idea that like any girl, particularly a sexually active girl who didn't apologize for it, but any girl who just felt their transgressive power was going to feel monstrous to the outside world. And so the point was never that you wanted to see Jennifer be vanquished. It was that you wanted to kind of celebrate something about Jennifer as her human self and as her monstrous self. So, I mean, but the Lilith concept is amazing, and now I have to like steal that.
You have both been amazing. Thank you so much.